There's a different kind of pain when someone insults you in private. But when they do it in front of 31 people, that's not just humiliation. That's a performance. My name is Ivy Colton. I'm 29. And if you had done something with your life, I wouldn't have to explain you to people. That's what my mother said. At Thanksgiving. At the center of the table. Where everyone could hear. And the worst part. No one defended me. They just sat there. Nodding. Looking away. Pretending it wasn't happening. But what none of them knew was that the daughter they'd been calling a failure for 7 years had built something in complete silence. Something they would never see coming. But this story doesn't start at that table. It starts with a phone call at 2:04 a.m. The kind that splits your life into before and after. March 2017. I was a junior studying computer science. Not perfect, but consistent. 3.7 GPA. Late nights. Early mornings. A clear path forward. Then my phone rang. "Ivy, it's Ruth," a voice said. My grandmother's neighbor. She collapsed in the kitchen. Ambulance just took her. I was out of bed before she finished speaking. I called my mother first. 5 rings. Then, "What, Ivy? It's 2 in the morning. Grandma had a stroke. She's in the hospital." Silence. Then a sigh. Not fear. Not concern. Annoyance. "She's old. That's what happens. I have work in the morning. Call your sister." Click. I stared at my phone. Then I called Meredith. "I can't," she said immediately. "I have bar prep. You know how Mom is." That was it. No one was coming. So I went alone. 4 hours. No music. No stops. Just headlights cutting through darkness. When I reached the hospital, I barely recognized her. The woman who raised me. Who braided my hair. Who taught me how to ride a bike. Now lying still. Half her body unmoving. Machines breathing for her. She opened her eyes. Looked at me. Reached for my hand. And whispered something. I didn't understand it fully at the time. But later, I realized. It changed everything. The doctors said she'd need months of care. Full-time. Daily help. Constant support. I checked the cost of professional care. $42 an hour. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was impossible. No one else was stepping in. So I made a decision. I walked into my advisor's office 2 days later. "I need to take a leave," I said. He looked at me carefully, then nodded. "You can come back," he said. But deep down, I knew I wouldn't. I packed my dorm room into 4 boxes, drove back home, and stepped into a life no one else wanted. Then I called my mother. "I'm staying with Grandma," I said. There was a pause. Then she said something I'll never forget. "Don't tell anyone." "What?" "I don't want people thinking we can't handle our own family." "But that's the truth." "No," she cut in. "The truth is, you quit." And just like that, my entire life was rewritten. Not by me, but by her. Because that one lie didn't just change how people saw me. It became the story my family would believe for the next 7 years. At first, I thought the lie would stay small. Something my mother said to avoid embarrassment. Something temporary. I was wrong. Because lies don't stay contained. They grow. They spread. And the more people believe them, the harder they are to fight. The first time I felt it was at a family barbecue. 4th of July. I pushed my grandmother's wheelchair through the gate. And everything shifted. You can feel it when a room already has a story about you. People don't look at you directly. They glance. Whisper. Then smile like nothing's wrong. "Oh, honey, are you okay?" My aunt grabbed my arm. That tone. That soft pity. That's when I knew. "My mom told us," she added gently. I looked across the yard. There she was. Standing by the drinks table. Hand on her chest. Eyes slightly red. Surrounded by relatives comforting her. Like she was the victim. That's not what happened, I said. Before I could explain, her voice cut through the air. Ivy, please. Not here. The room went quiet. And suddenly, I wasn't defending myself anymore. I was the problem. I looked down at my grandmother. She squeezed my wrist. Don't. So I didn't. I stayed silent. And that silence, it cost me more than I realized. Because over the next few months, that version of me became permanent. The dropout. The failure. The daughter who gave up. No one asked questions. Why would they? They already had the story. And the person telling it sounded convincing. But here's what they didn't see. Every morning at 6 a.m., I was helping my grandmother relearn how to stand. Every afternoon, I was managing her medication, her meals, her therapy. And every night, after she fell asleep, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop, learning, coding, building something no one knew about. Not for recognition, not for validation, for survival. Because I had already learned one thing. If I didn't create my own future, no one was going to give me one. 6 months later, my grandmother got stronger. Not perfect, but better. And I saw my chance. I applied for an internship. Small software company. Nothing fancy. But it was real. They called me back. You're exactly what we're looking for, the manager said. I remember sitting there, smiling for the first time in months. I got the offer. Monday start. Everything was finally changing. Until Friday afternoon. My phone rang. I'm sorry, the voice said. We've received some concerning information about you. My chest tightened. What kind of information? A family member contacted us about your reliability. Everything went quiet. I didn't need to ask who. I already knew. That night, I drove to my mother's house. Did you call them? I asked. She didn't even hesitate. Maybe they just realized you weren't good enough. And in that moment, something inside me broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, just cleanly. Because now I understood the truth. This wasn't about protecting me. This wasn't about family. This was control. And as long as I stayed visible, she could take everything from me. So I made a decision that night. I stopped trying to prove her wrong. And started building something she couldn't touch. Because the moment I chose silence was the moment I started building a life no one in my family would even recognize. After that night, I stopped trying to be seen. No more explanations. No more defending myself. No more fighting a story I didn't write. I disappeared. Not physically, but strategically. If visibility could be used against me, then silence would become my advantage. During the day, I took care of my grandmother. Therapy sessions, medication schedules, meals, everything. But at night, I built something. Quietly, relentlessly. The kitchen table became my office. A cheap laptop, cold coffee, endless tabs open. I taught myself everything. Python, JavaScript, systems design. No classes. No professors. No one guiding me. Just discipline. And a reason strong enough to keep going. Because I knew one thing. I couldn't depend on anyone else anymore. Months passed. Then a year. Money was tight. Really tight. I took small freelance jobs. Websites. Basic tools. Anything that paid. Some clients argued over $20. Some disappeared without paying. But I kept going. Because while everyone else saw a failure, I was learning how to survive. Then one night, something clicked. I had been working on a side project. A logistics tool for small transport companies. Simple idea, but powerful. One client tested it. It saves me 10 hours a week, he said. That sentence changed everything. Because for the first time, I wasn't just learning. I was solving a real problem. So I made a decision. No announcement. No validation. Just action. I registered a company, Juniper Labs, named after my grandmother. And then, I did something even more important. I changed my name. Not legally, not publicly, strategically. I started operating as Ivy Parker, not to hide, but to protect what I was building. Because the last time my real name was attached to opportunity, it was taken from me. And I wasn't letting that happen again. My grandmother was the only one who knew. I told her over breakfast one morning. I'm starting something real, I said. She didn't even hesitate. Good, she replied. About time. Then a week later, she called me into her room and handed me a check. $3,200. I stared at it. That's everything you have, I said. She nodded. I didn't raise you to be small. That sentence stayed with me. I used that money to build my first real version. No investors. No team. Just me. And it started working. Year 1. 3 clients. Barely enough to survive. Year 2. 17 clients. 1 employee. Year 3. 80 clients. Multiple states. Real revenue. And still, no one in my family knew. Every holiday, I showed up the same way. Quiet. Unremarkable. Letting them believe their version of me. Because the truth wasn't ready yet. But then, everything changed. Because one morning, I got a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. And what they said next made me sit down. Because that call didn't just change my business. It set the stage for the one moment my family would never be able to control again. The call came on a Tuesday morning. Unknown number. San Francisco. I almost didn't answer. Hi, is this Ivy Parker? Yes. We've been reviewing your platform. We'd like to discuss an investment. I sat down slowly. Because I already knew. This wasn't small. Over the next few weeks, everything moved fast. Meetings. Calls. Numbers. Then finally, an offer. $12 million valuation. I read it 3 times. Not because I didn't understand it, but because I needed to believe it. The girl they called a failure had built something real. But I didn't celebrate. Not yet. Because I knew something else was coming. Thanksgiving. The same table. The same people. The same story. Only this time, the ending would be different. I didn't plan anything dramatic. Didn't rehearse a speech. Didn't prepare a reveal. Because the truth doesn't need performance. It just needs timing. That morning, I got an email. Forbes. 30 under 30, logistics. Publishing that day. Thanksgiving Day. I stared at the date. And for the first time, I smiled. Because this wasn't revenge. It was alignment. When I walked into the house that afternoon, nothing had changed. Same voices. Same laughter. Same quiet judgment. My mother greeted guests like always. Perfect. Controlled. And then dinner started. She stood up, raised her glass, and told the same story. About Meredith's success. About family pride. And then, she looked at me. We're just glad Ivy is here, she said softly. We hope one day she finds her direction. A few sympathetic smiles. A few awkward glances. The same script. Then it happened. One phone buzzed. Then another. Then another. At first, no one reacted. Then my uncle looked down at his screen. Froze. Ivy, he said slowly. The room went quiet. Is this you? Now everyone was checking. Scrolling. Reading. Looking up. My face. My name. My company. Headlines. Numbers. Recognition. Everything they said I wasn't. Right there. In their hands. My mother looked around, confused. What's going on? No one answered her. Because for the first time, she wasn't controlling the story. She grabbed my father's phone. Read it. And I watched something I had never seen before. Her confidence disappear. You built this, she whispered. Yes. And you didn't tell us. I held her gaze. You never asked. Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. Then my grandmother spoke. She left school to take care of me, she said. And just like that, the real story entered the room. Not loud. Not emotional. Just undeniable. Everything unraveled. The lies. The narrative. The version of me they had believed for years. Gone. My mother tried to speak. To recover. To fix it. But there was nothing left to fix. Because truth doesn't argue. It stands. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't defend myself. I didn't need to. I didn't come here to prove anything, I said. I just stopped hiding. And that was it. No dramatic ending. No shouting. Just clarity. I walked outside with my grandmother. Cold air. Quiet. And for the first time in years, the silence felt different. Not empty. Peaceful. Because I wasn't invisible anymore. I was undeniable. A few weeks later, everything changed. Calls. Apologies. Silence from some. Regret from others. But me. I didn't go back. Not to the version of myself they created. Because I finally understood something. You don't need to prove your worth to people who decided your value without knowing you. You build it. You live it. And one day, whether they accept it or not, it speaks for itself. Because the most powerful comeback isn't telling people who you are. It's becoming someone they can't deny anymore.